So, yeah, it's all the we're in the middle of this very fast changing world, which is never going to be the same. There's going to be parts of the same, but going to be leftovers. But we're moving into an evolving space that we did not expect. Certainly, a year ago, we did not
Oh,
expect this. And so you, for example, work remotely because you moved from London to Portugal.
exactly. And actually, I'd been thinking about moving for the last couple of years because I've got young kids and they're not in the school system yet. So my wife and I were saying, imagine if, and then along came COVID. We thought actually, because my concern was, will I be able to network and build up, the business? And actually, it turns out that my business is, I'm very fortunate, business has really picked up because culture is now such a critical issue for most companies. Because essentially what's happening is most companies relied on their offices to develop and manage their culture for them. That's why they could be lazy about their culture. If you compare that to remote work companies, all of them focus on culture from a very early stage because they can't afford not to. Versus when you're in the office, you can rely on osmosis and random interactions for your culture to propagate what's happening in the environment. But now that the office is gone, the osmosis doesn't happen. And in my book, I actually, in the chapter, I quote Warren Buffett, where I say, I use Warren Buffett's quote where he says, "You don't know who's swimming naked until the tide goes out." And the tide's gone out on a lot of CEOs who didn't do any work on their culture, and they're really struggling now
Mm,
because their culture is degrading every single day
mm.
because they relied so much on proximity, visibility, availability, informal communication, those water cooler moments. They relied on these things for their culture to propagate. And it actually wasn't intentional, it was unintentional. It was almost as if culture wasn't that important because it didn't have to be because the office did it for them.
Mm. Yeah, I'm certainly seeing some companies that, and they've been doing it. Some of them doing it for years. They've worked remotely ever since they started. I think one great example of that is Basecamp, the two owners behind Basecamp, and I've read a few of their books, and it's fascinating in that they have built culture and how they work into the remote hybrid model.